So the major point which I want to make today is the transition from one paradigm to another. So there were several shifts in the past. Um, so Indian tradition is very unique in one particular way. So because it covers such a huge range, starting from prehistoric times and ending with modern times. So if you look at it from the shifts of paradigms, changes of structures of consciousness, there are major structures were covered. All of them are very different. For example, if we speak in a Gebserian language, Zhonggebser, so Indian tradition, we can start from archaic structure and then magic finally, which belongs to Brahmanas. Let us say some hitas were covering that archaic structure, unknown to us, or archaic is the same as integral structure, which kind of accommodates all possible relations with oneself and the world on a universal scale. Sri Aurobindo calls it symbolic age. And then there was a huge gap, maybe 1,000 or maybe several thousands of years between Samhitas and Brahmanas. Brahmanas started to comment on Samhitas um, in totally different language, in the language of the mythology and ritual. So all the Samhita texts were used for ritualistic practices. So all these Vedis were built, the altars, the fires were lit, the whole Kalpavedanga. Kalpavedanga is the biggest literature describing how to build these altars and how to make sacrifices. And mantras of Samhitas were assigned to a particular action or particular ritual. And not always, how to say, in a meaningful fashion. Sometimes they were assigned in a very kind of general way. Yeah? So to say, to keep in mind that particular phrase from Samhita, which will give you a connection to some kind of a higher force. Uh, it's not justified by meaning. Many times it is completely mm, out of the blue, I would say. And then all kind of justifications follow by commentaries trying to justify why that mantra is assigned to that particular action and so on. But it all looks very childish mm, and not really deeply kind of related. So Brahmanas start a new period of ritualism and mythology, trying to explain what was there in Samhitas. And in that sense, there is another language. There is already mythological and uh, magic structure of consciousness through the ritual and mythological through myths. And finally, Aranyakas, which are dealing with myths and explanation of these myths in terms of metaphysics and also psychology. Why do we do what we do? Why these rituals are important, what to do, how to conduct svadhyaya. Svadhyaya is the major topic of Aranyakas, how to conduct self-study on Samhitas, how to read the text to oneself and learn from it something. So there is a shift towards more mental structure of consciousness, more philosophy. And finally, Upanishads is totally metaphysical and uh, prepares us for the mental structure of consciousness, rational. And so if Samhitas are dealing with universal picture of the world, then Upanishads are already dealing with individual perception, individual psychology. So that's why Upanishads are closer to us. Their language is closer to us. They are dealing with our perception. They speak about individual perception. Samhitas do not do this. They speak about universal presence, yeah, of these forces of consciousness in the whole nature. Mm. And from that time on, from Upanishadic time, we have Sankhya and Yoga, which is totally rational structure. And from Sankhya's time, we have absolutely rational language. So what I'm trying to say is that there were three shifts of paradigms, yes, from the most archaic to magic and mythical and to metaphysical. And all of these are explained or uh, composed in one language, Sanskrit language. And this is something unique because Sanskrit is allowing us to compare these structures and to go through them and to see the differences. And that is most probably the reason why Rigveda and Vedic vision is misunderstood by post-Vedic literature because it was lost, and it belongs to another mentality or another consciousness which we already do not possess. Mm. So Sri Aurobindo would say that Samhitas belong to the symbolic age, whereas Brahmanas will be typifying, making types, yes, typifying, if we can use such a word, coining such word, to make types. So to assign those particular symbolic expressions of the truth to a particular action, to a particular ritual, creating types out of the truth. And finally, uh, uh, arriving at conventional age, yes, which is more typical for Dvapara Yuga. And so, and then moving into the, finally from conventional age Dvapara to the Kali Yuga, where there is the domination of the mental structure and critical mind, and that is Sankhya and Yoga. So we have this shift, yeah, which is described in yugas also, Kali Yuga, Treta, Dvapara, and Satya Yuga, Treta, Dvapara, and Kali Yuga. The same here with structures, symbolic, or let us say with structures, archaic, magic, mythical, and rational mental structure, or in ages as Sri Aurobindo describes, symbolic age, typal age, conventional age, and finally individualist age. Individualistic age starts with the Gita, with the Kurukshetra, yes, where Krishna is mixing varnas, is not permitting anyone to um, recognize the highest knowledge through the structure, but through their own individual um, aspiration in the heart. As he says, I am in the heart of every man, and now everyone can find me, the supreme, in their heart. So this is a new structure which was not there before. It's much more dangerous, much more difficult to follow, much more destructive for the nature, but still, this individualistic structure is the beginning of the subjective age and finally the spiritual age. The truth has to be discovered in the heart of every man. And this is where we, or when we live now. Yeah? This is our time. And you can see there are so many subjective opinions. Many of them are ignorant, but still they are permitted because we are in this transition towards the spiritual age. Okay, that's what I wanted to tell you about the shift of paradigms. And today we will look into the Vedic paradigm, on what ground it was built. For us, it will be quite difficult for one particular reason, that we do not have that mind anymore. So we will have to try to get into that mind, to build it up, as it were, or to remember rather. I'm speaking many words, unfortunately. Yes, these words are kind of jumping here and there. But if you have some questions, you please interrupt anytime. Rashi, you wanted to ask something or to say something. No, no, nothing.
I'm thinking, should I write down? What if I forget this? That's what I was thinking for the first one, because the rational and the mythical. I'd like to write it so that I understand it better. But then I wanted to hear it, so I don't
Yeah,
miss
yeah,
out.
you better listen because it's not really important to. Yeah, the recordings are there. You can always go back if you want to something to remember, so it's easy. But why I'm saying that you better listen because it's about
I mean, it's like
understanding.
how you were explaining about the process of time.
Mm. It is.
Yes, yes, yes.
It
But
is
I didn't
strange.
know about these ages. So for me, this information that yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, this is
my
the
internet
biggest.
connection is unstable. Go ahead, Vladimir.
Yeah, yeah, Rashi. This misunderstanding of the ages is very vivid when you come to the scientific paradigm. You can see that they are not accepting at all that in the past we were more universally developed, like Satya Yuga at the beginning and Kali Yuga at the end. The view is just the opposite, that kind of thousands of years back, we were in the Stone Age, knew nothing, were monkeys. And from monkeys, suddenly there came a human being. And nobody knows when and how. But 10,000 years back, according to scientific paradigm, we were in a Stone Age, which is totally unfair and totally um, not true. So when Sri Aurobindo writes about this, that we are coming from symbolic age of the Veda, much greater development in some way, yes, of the consciousness. It's like our childhood of our group soul. You know, when we were children, yes, we were not so sophisticated in the maybe in the techniques, technology, outer means, and so on. But we had a soul which was totally connected and still remembered the source from which it came. So it was a very different luminous age. And then when he writes about this, I remember reading Indian philosophy by Radhakrishnan. Radhakrishnan, he objects to Sri Aurobindo. He says he has a very nice idea that in the past we were more connected to the divine than now, but we cannot take this idea because we believe in progress. That's what he says. So for him, progress is kind of coming from lower to the higher and not from higher to the lower. But it depends how we look on it. From what
Vladimir,
angle.
there's one more concept where Western psychology will never agree to soul as a fundamental, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yes, they would agree with biological psychology that there are some chemicals connecting proteins, and then you have the sense of anger or sense of lust and so on. Just biological functioning, mechanical.
So, Dr. Yatsenko, I had a tough time believing this also. I also had a dilemma because progress means going forward, and that's what we've learned since the time the concept of knowledge came into being. And just last week, I attended another webinar which spoke about Indian geometry. And they explained to me, they were explaining the Pythagoras theorem, which we all know from school days and then into maths and engineering, and that it's been described in Vedanga in 4 sentences without any geometric representation. It was so difficult for me to believe it, I mean, till the time I actually saw the picture and the concept. And then just 2 days later, there was something on the Kannada, the Anu and the Parmanu, the atomic
Canada,
concept.
yes, Vaisheshika.
Kannada, Vaisheshika. And that I believe dates 600 BC, which
Mhm.
was, and so I grew up thinking Dalton invented atoms, which was 1800 century. So 24 centuries before atoms and molecules existed. And there was no attribution any time throughout my education. I mean, I've heard of Feynman and I've read his books, but I never knew there was somebody called Kanada who existed in the Indian philosophy.
Yeah, so
So
it's a great discovery, is that in the
it's
past,
challenged my
challenge your worldview. Yes, I mean,
it was I actually sat on Google and tried to figure out. And in the first 100 odd links, there's nothing about atom and Kanada. It's all about Dalton and Thomson and cathode ray tubes and etc.
yeah, but still there is Anu, concept of Anu as the particle or the atom from which all the other are unique. By the way, Vaisheshika is unique in one way, that it looks at everything as a unique manifestation, not as a typal manifestation. Yeah? Everything is a uniquely individualistic in a way. Every cow is a different cow from every other cow, and every leaf is different from every leaf. So it's in a way it's very true, even scientifically today, if you look at it. Yes, so there's nothing to argue with. But yes, Sri Aurobindo says his argument is that, do you think that this kind of man who is today could develop within 10,000 years from monkey? It's impossible. He said our civilization was many times unfolding, and these manvantaras, yes, the group soul comes, engages with the manifestation, then withdraws for some time, pralaya, then comes again and again, and there were many kalpas within which there are 14 manvantaras. It is not for the first time we are coming here, and not for the first time we are trying to make it work. I mean, what work we will see now, what is Vedic paradigm to tell us, what are we here to do actually, why we are here, what is really going on. Yeah? So in the Vedic vision, which is of universal nature, the faculties of consciousness in the Veda usually are projected from the Divine Mother, Aditi, infinite consciousness force. That very consciousness force, which we already addressed in our Vedic vision before. She projected out of one being. With her consciousness, she could concentrate on any detail or any element or any aspect or quality of this infinite being and bring it to life as if separately with her force. This is her projection. She projects the divine existence in many details, many aspects, infinite number of relations, and so on. The supreme emanations of that supreme force, consciousness forces, are called Adityas, the sons of Aditi. Aditi, infinite being, undivided consciousness. If you want the concept of singularity, if you will, yeah? If to come closer to the science, yeah? That's kind of spiritualistic science. There are 7 of them: Varuna, Mitra, Aryaman, Bhaga, Daksha, Amsha, and Surya. And these are the names of the gods in the Veda. So here they are: Varuna, Mitra, Aryaman, Bhaga, Daksha, Amsha, and Surya, 7 sons of Aditi, or 7 her major faculties, her qualities, her activities. Varuna is, I will cover them immediately, represents the vastness of infinite being Sat. When she perceives the vast existence of the divine being, that is that particular Aditya, Varuna. When she becomes a luminosity and harmony of consciousness perceiving it, she becomes Mitra, Chit, Sat, Chit, Ananda, and Tapas and Ananda. When she is the power, when she is forming that being in particular form, she becomes the divine Tapas, Aryaman. And when she is emanating the conscious being, that emanation becomes bliss. And the bliss is bhaga, the divine fulfillment, or ananda. So in the transcendental Satchitananda, what is happening that the infinite being, which alone is, so to say, one existence, conscious of itself, as it were, with its own luminous harmony of consciousness and force, yes, perceiving itself as one, emanates the divine bliss, because to be conscious totally means to be blissful totally. It's a very simple concept. It's simpler than it looks like, and it works. Because the more conscious we are of our existence, of our being, the more blissful we are. The less conscious, the less blissful. These are two connected parts of our being. And nothing else to be said about this, because to be more blissful means to become more conscious of what we really are. And if we have full awareness of ourselves, it will be a complete ananda and bliss. But the problem that we do not have that awareness. We do not have that awareness and force to be that what we are. And that's why we are lacking bliss, lacking joy of existence. Only partially we have it. Whenever we are conscious, whenever we are capable of being ourselves, we are getting that sense of bliss. This is the transcendental Satchit Tapasananda. These are the Varuna Mitra Aryaman Bhaga, the aspects of the Divine Mother. So, here they are. And there is a very beautiful myth of Martanda, or eighth son, who was born from Aditi, and he was born ugly and distorted. His limbs were not developed or mutilated. So he was, Martanda means dead egg or dead embryo. He was born as if dead, ugly, not shining being. And when Aditi saw him with her 7 sons, she left him to be alone. So when he actually came into his self-awareness, as it were, he didn't know his mother. He didn't know his father. He was left alone in the darkness. Now, this Martanda became Vivasvan, the Lord of the Sun. He became the most luminous, shining all over being. This dead embryo turned to be the creator of the universe. Now, this is the myth. This is the story. Yes? But what is within it, it's quite interesting, is that when Aditi brought him to birth, he was already covered with inconscience. He was not conscious. He was within unconsciousness, as it were. So it is said in other places that the sun, the Surya, was stolen by the Titans and was hidden into the subconscious darkness. So it was stolen and hidden in the darkness. And that is the symbol of Vivasvat, the all-luminous sun, which was involved, inconscient. His consciousness was involved, like the black hole, yes, which is not luminous because the very luminosity draws back to its center. So we do not see the black hole. Black hole is very luminous. If we break through that wall of darkness, there will be the intensity of light. And this is the Vivasvat, the creator of the universe. Maybe it has something to do even with scientific paradigm. What is happening in the physical world, in the universe, why these black holes are there. Because they are the generators of the galaxies, of all life we have. Yes. So they are the center of all the stars. They are all kind of drawn to this black hole and held in a particular constellation around it, and can have their life around it. So this Vivasvat, yes, the eighth sun, and if you look that all the seven Adityas are actually represented by one Vivasvat. So if you look carefully, we will see that there is no Mitra without Varuna. There is no consciousness without being, because consciousness is the perception of that very being which it perceives as it is, as itself. There is no force without consciousness and being. Without conscious being, there cannot be any power. Power is the phenomenon or the result of being conscious. And that's why it can exercise its power, because power is the being exercised by consciousness, or engaged with conscious perception of itself. I'm simplifying because I want to explain how all they connect in this hierarchy. Aryaman, on the other hand, is the fourth, yes, and it appears because of Varuna and Mitra and never mentioned separately from them in the Veda. And Bhaga is the result of that bliss, which is based on Varuna, Mitra, and Aryaman. There is no bliss possible if consciousness force will not be totally activated within the being. Bliss is the result of conscious force activated within the being. Now here they are four. Then Daksha, Amsha, and Surya. What are these? This is the triple supermind, as Sri Aurobindo describes as that link world, which connects the higher triple Satchitananda with lower Manas, Prana, and Annam. You have seen the scheme I was showing you before. That is the Vijnana, triple Vijnana. And this triple Vijnana is Daksha, which is, I will project it, wait a minute. Daksha represents the power of thought, capital T, all discerning and all distributing power of supramental consciousness. Amsha represents the diversity in oneness, supported by that unifying power of Daksha. So diversity in oneness. Amsha. Amsha means, as you know, is the portion. Portion implies the part, separate part, and being part of the one. It is both. It is separated part of oneness. Actually, it is our portion of our souls are being formed here, formulated. All individual beings are being formed and formulated on this level. And then Surya, or Savitar, who represents the seven Adityas, and projects them into a lower creation as the lights, as the rays of light. And his rays represent the diversity in the domains of Svar, which is lower creation. We will come to it. So here they are, these seven beings, and the eighth one, which embodies all of them in manifestation. It should be clearer now. So here they are, the triple status of the supermind. One is unity, that is Daksha, many in one and one in many, that is Amsha, and finally many, that is Surya. Surya shining with his rays. And if we analyze how Surya works, how Aditya works, how the sun, even physical sun works, it would be amazing to compare this physics of how Surya works with mythology, because maybe you have seen some these videos on National Geographics and on the sun, how sun works. I was watching it. It is an amazing exposition. It seems that the sun in the core generates a very powerful gamma radiation. And this gamma radiation, if it would be released into the cosmos, it would destroy every life, every possible life, because it's too powerful. So these gamma rays or movements or impulses, waves, gamma waves, let us say, start their journey, and they move through the thick layer of plasma. This thick layer of plasma is generated by the very gamma radiation, which is not released into the cosmos because of this pull, gravitational pull to the center. So it has no force to come out from home. So it stays within this thick plasma layer and generates heat. So that's why this plasma level is created, because the huge temperature is generated by those gamma radiations. And what happens next? That after 1 million years, gamma radiation is traveling within plasma 1 million years. It comes to the surface and is ready to leave the sun, but it lost most of its energy. It becomes already beneficial light. So it generates heat within the sun, keeps it alive, and is ready to go out to the cosmos and become beneficial for Earth. But even then, it cannot go away. So there are these kind of bursts from the sun, which sun is pulling back by gravitation to itself, and rays still bend and go into the sun until they totally lose their energy, their harmful energy, and then they can shine out as individual rays. And this is exactly this unity in the center, many in one and one in many, how sun works in the plasma level, and finally many rays. Just amazing how physicality fits into this vision of our mentality. Right. So here they are. 7 of them. Satchit Tapasananda, supramental knowledge force, many in one and one in many, and supramental manifestation. We are talking about transcendental world, yeah? Not this world. Yes.
So that same concept will be for the fossil evolution, for the earth, everything, right?
It's all that from within has to reveal itself without. Yes, it's all what is beyond, which is beyond the sun. In Chandogya, they speak that the sun is the gate to the beyond. Every star is actually the gate, the portal to the transcendental beyond. So if I want to find the end of the universe, I should not look for it outside, looking for the border of the universe, because it's infinite. I will never find the border, the end of the universe. But if I want to go to the real transcendental beyond universe, I have to pierce the sun. I have to go through his core to the transcendental. So this is something to think of, even on the physical level. We have no idea what it means in terms of our journey, because in the Vedic tradition, they speak about 2 simultaneous movements of our being, 2 simultaneous developments or evolutions of the soul, which is called Devayana, and another Pitriyana of our being, kind of being generated, instruments of knowledge, embodiment. And the soul travels through the sun. And Devayana comes to the sun, enters the sun, and goes to the beyond. And Pitriyana goes to the moon, and on the moon, generating all that knowledge and experience, giving it, sharing it with the world, comes back to pick up more of this experience again to share. So this is a constant movement of Pitriyana from earth to moon and back. and Devayana is the traveling of the soul to the sun. So that's why we have two calendars, solar and lunar. Both of them are representing our development on different scale. So coming back to these 7, here they are. So these 7 would be projected into the lower hemisphere, as it were. So we have the transcendental world with Satchit, Tapas, Ananda, and Supermind, Dakshamsha, and Surya, which is projected into Svar world. Dakshamsha and Surya will be, or Vivasvat in this case, already projected into the Svar world, into our universe, which is already projected into the matter as Varuna, Mitra Aryaman as our power of life, prana, and Bhaga as our psychic being, and finally Daksha and Amsha and Vivasvat would be the projection of our triple mentality, of our higher mind, illumined higher, and universal mind. I will come to these minds, triple minds, in a moment. So there is Aditi, the infinite consciousness, and she has her twin sister, Diti. Yes, not twin, but yeah, twin sister. Diti, the dividing consciousness. So undivided and dividing consciousness. So it is her shadow, as it were. It is the Divine Mother in Aparaprakriti. And Divine Mother in Paraprakriti is Aditi, Aparaprakriti is Diti. And that's why all the beings who are born here in separated consciousness are called Daityas or Danavas. Yes, they demons. They are demons because they are born not from oneness of their awareness with the Supreme, but from the separated awareness, selfishness. They are seeing themselves as everything for themselves. They do not have that sense of oneness. Of course, I try to put everything into one picture, but still it may help if we look at it again. So here it is in a simplified way. Satchitananda, Vijnana, which is interactive between the two, and then finally Manas, Prana, and Annam. Para and Apara Prakriti. What is interesting if you observe these, so Vijnana is also triple. There is oneness, diversity, and one in many and many in one, and finally many. So here we see very similar results. Sat is one, totally one existence. Chit is the element which is diversifying this oneness by paying attention to the elements and to the aspects of the oneness. And bliss is actually the emanation of that particular awareness of one particular aspect of bliss, of Sat. So bliss is that emanation, constant emanation of every possible awareness of any aspect of infinite existence, which is totally diversifying. So we can see that it is coming from Satchitananda into Vijnana, this oneness, one in many, in many in one, and finally many. And it is projected into Manas, Prana, and Annam the same way. Manas, mind, is more unifying element in us, conceptualizing, we think by concepts. Prana is more diversifying. Every pranic being, every living creature is uniquely formed. And on the ground of that concept, it is not yet totally individualized, but it's on the way to be individualized. And finally, we have matter, where everything, as Vaisheshika would say, is unique in its own self-presentation. So there is never two pebbles on the shore of the same kind. There is never two fingerprints in the world. Everything is different, no two leaves. You will never find identical two leaves on the trees. So they are all different. infinitely different. And I'm afraid, but most probably it is true, there are no two atoms similar in the world. They are all different. And that is anamatter, because matter is the projection of this infinite existence. And that is how that infinity of existence is spelled out with infinite varieties, never repeating themselves. I wanted to, today maybe I will stop here, because this is a big topic following here, which is very beautiful. How, maybe I will just make a projection because it's so tempting, but I feel that we are shifting from one thought to another. So maybe I will stop here for now to get the most out of this one thought, because to give many thoughts is just confusing, I noticed. This is the concept, the vision. Yeah? It is, of course, expressed in the mental language and mythical language, because there is no other way to speak about it. We were not witnessing this happening physically. Yeah? So, so if you have some ideas, questions, please, doubts, especially doubts, I would love to hear. Objections, yeah? Rejections, whatever.
So I think the analogy from the physical world is easier to relate to, even though the way you were describing the sun maybe as, if not more, um, I don't know what's the right word, not atrocious, but but looking at the spiritual side of it, I'm still finding it. Though these slides are clearer now after the first initiation, but then to relate to it and then to accept it, because if you describe the sun, the gamma rays, and the million years, that concept comes a little bit easier than the spiritual side of it. So I was wondering, maybe this will get easier as we move forward, but right now it's still a struggle.
Sure, sure. But if you think about the world, just about yourself and the world, you will see that consciousness is present everywhere. It's not only consciousness as awareness. There is more awareness in one part, there is a less awareness in another part, but also as force, as something which acts upon. Everything in this world knows how to be itself. Just think about it. It's an amazing world. It is built in such a way that we are sitting on different continents, everyone on different continents, 3 of us, 4 of us, 5 of us. I am in America, you are in Philippines, they are in India. We are all sitting together on this globe, as if in our room, statically in front of the table, but this globe is moving very fast around the sun and rotating around itself, and the sun moves with a huge speed around the galaxy. Altogether, this movement nearly 1 million kilometers per hour. And we are holding that awareness within this particular physical formation of many atoms, bacteria, absolutely consciously functioning elements put together by something within, and we are communicating about the matters which are going far beyond the physical immediate perception. It's unbelievable. I don't think there is a greater miracle than this, and can't be greater. You don't need to look for something beyond. We just try to explain how all this came into being. There must be one origin. It can't be many origins, yes? and how that one became so beautifully sophisticated and evolving constantly and changing, and what it is all for. It's another big question. Why so much trouble? So all these questions, of course, are answered in this particular revelation. It's a revelation. So the being, every being is conscious of its own particular form, of its own particular force. That's why it maintains that form, that force. Everything knows how to be. The birds know how to be. They know how to fly over the ocean, over Himalayas. 10,000 kilometers they fly over the ocean and they nest. How do they know where they fly when they fly over Pacific Ocean? Who leads them? It's all very uncertain. So to say, how this table knows how to be a table, let us come to the things which are not animated, or this computer knows how to direct those electrons and electrical signals that it will really maintain that particular formation to be that what we call computer. So everything knows how to be. This table knows how to hold these things on the table. This chair knows how to hold me in this chair. My body knows how to sit here. My mouth knows how to speak. Everything knows. Everything is charged with consciousness, which is effective and can act, whether at will or just by the process as such, which is inbuilt in the being, that beingness which is conscious. And that is the being. Without being, there is no consciousness. That's what I wanted to bring, that consciousness is inbuilt in everything, in the trees, in the sky, in everything. We just don't think like this because we are mentally thinking about it. We apply one particular formation of consciousness, trying to figure out all the rest. And then when once it is conscious totally about itself, about its true self, about its true existence, infinite existence, it is revealed as the bliss. Because bliss is nothing but the emanation of consciousness force, perceiving its being and being capable of manifesting itself as such. And that is something to meditate upon. I think that is to be discovered by us. We have to look at the world now with different eyes, see the being, the consciousness, and the bliss which it emanates. And if we remove all our desires, preferences, fears, likings, dislikings, all that which is blocking our perception, and just simply be what we are, we would be full of bliss. But there are so many troubles in between, which so many aims and objectives we want to realize and to gain and so on and so forth. There is the whole force of evolution pushing us forward. So how to be really satisfied with whatever you achieved if it is not the final thing? So if we remove all of those, we will fall into the sheer bliss of existence and consciousness. But if we are not conscious, of course, the bliss would not be totally there.
So should we say that right now we are at a level where it's coming and it's going, it's coming and it's going?
Right, absolutely. We are becoming aware of something in us. We feel, wow, this is why we are attracted to be aware of anything, because the bliss is generated. We are happy to master ourselves, to be masters of ourselves. That means I am aware of some part of myself and can apply the force of that part in a particular conscious way. And that generates bliss in me. And that's what we are looking here for. We are all looking for this constant bliss, more and more bliss we want. As Taittiriya would say, it is from the bliss all beings come into existence. By bliss they live and into the bliss they go. It's the highest from which we came. Anandamaya, this is the source of our soul. Soul is born from that emanation of conscious existence. So, and then of course manifestation is much more complex. And if we come to Vijnana, we will see that supermind is the whole secret of this manifestation, because in the supermind, as you see here, I put para and apara prakriti coming together within the supermind. They are like crossing. So it is like Satchitananda is being projected into the lower hemisphere. And that projection, that interaction of the Satchitananda with the lower hemisphere generates and creates manas, prana, and annam. And there is more to it. That is what is here, Purushottama beyond, about whom I don't even speak yet. It is he who alone is the supreme individual, as it were, supreme person, not individual, person, not impersonal. All this is impersonal. Satchitananda, Vijnana, Manas, Prana, and Annam. These are the levels of Brahman spirit. But beyond them, within them, because of him, because of this supreme person, all these are becoming inhabited layers of his. So he can be or he can be not. It depends. He can be sat and asat, cheat and achit, let us say, ananda and anananda. So he can be both. He can be that and not that and something more than that. Transcendental to the transcendental. And because of him, the individual at all can take place. Individualization as such is the most secret operation of the Supreme Person. We are all representing the Supreme Person in individual framework, which is difficult to believe, but it is true. We are not only representing Satchitananda, these are our faculties, these are our manifestations, as it were. But in the very core of our being, in the core of our soul, we are, as Krishna says, adhiyajna. I am seated within every being, within his soul, within his heart. So that is the Purushottama, the Supreme One who is, who alone is. Now he manifested himself in these forms of infinite existence, consciousness, power, and bliss, in the finite consciousness, power, and bliss, and matter. That's how he manifested himself in terms of para and apara prakriti, higher and lower nature. This is the vision of the Veda and Tantra and all Hinduism in between. You will find this vision constantly there in all the literature. Actually, everything is on this scheme. We don't need to go anywhere else. Um, everything is imprinted here in principle. All right. I think I exhausted my time, but next time I would like to look into these domains from Vijnana down, how it was embodied in the physical world. What has happened to this, where this Annam is coming from, and how it is being manifested here from the spirit. Because matter is nothing but the enterprise of the spirit.
I'm just getting this question, like during Vedic period, what was like the way we are talking about the psychological construct in today's time? What was their psychological construct?
Right.
What was their purpose?
We spoke about this a bit in the previous two presentations. We spoke about psychology. Yes, what is this? What does it mean psychologically? I can say only one thing to add to this, that the Vedic paradigm is more on the universal level. You see, there are no individuals here. We are not speaking about individuals at all. We are speaking about universal forces of consciousness and being and power and bliss, which are manifesting these worlds in all the varieties. And this approach is constantly there in the Rig Veda. And when we read the Vedic hymns, rishis would always say, reveal to us, lead us to the felicity, us, always we. Lead also human beings or mental beings forward. So never me, give me or reveal to me. In the Veda, there is no even concept of mukti, because mukti is already a personal need. It's already an evolutionary look. As a being here, I want to be liberated. I want to gain some higher consciousness. There is no such look even. There is just opposite, look from the above towards below, so to say, from up down. And with all the wonders, yes, of how this diversity may manifest the divine. And Vedas, we can say they are interested in the diversity, whereas we are interested in oneness, because we do not have oneness. We are coming from diversity and looking for oneness. Vedas are looking for diversity because they are coming from oneness. The oneness is implied in them. They have it already inbuilt in their consciousness. Now they are looking for this, diversifying the oneness and wondering about this beautiful manifestation. They want to see the one to be embodied in every individual unit here. And that's the sacrifice, basically. This is the concept of the sacrifice. Okay, I will stop here today, and we will continue from this slide, Surya and Savitri, the Lord of Creation, the worlds of Svar, Trirochana, the three heavens, the three vital realms, and the three earths. What are these? And that would be a pure psychology. There will be no more mythology. We will come to these psychological fundamental divisions in our system. You will see physical, vital, mental, vital, mental, vital, physical, mind, vital mind, and mental mind. 3 times 3, 9 rays of consciousness, or Navagva rishis, rishis of 9 rays. And how they become Dashagva rishis, rishis of 10 rays, we're adding Trirochanas to it, the world of Svar, where Indra is playing the major role. So we will see what rishis were doing, and that paradigm specifically we have to kind of start with, because we want to shift afterwards to the Upanishadic paradigm, which is very different. And you will see that the same knowledge is presented in a very different manner. And that would be interesting to shift from one language to another, because we are always bewildered. Our bewilderment is coming from that we are shifting the language and we think they speak about other things, but they speak about the same thing in a different framework. So we have to train ourselves to be able to see the same knowledge in different languages or different paradigms of knowledge. So now we are dealing with Vedic. We have to grow deeper into it and kind of establish it within ourselves. And then we make a shift, and you will be surprised how beautiful shift is. And it will be cognizable to us because we will recognize it. It's closer to our mentality. All right. I hope it is not too academic. I try to make it more psychological. Anyway, Rashi, you have some question, I guess. No. You're looking very questioning all this. What is going on? What the heck is going on?
Accepting that it's going to sink in and go in and spin in way in its own time. So suspend the brain. I'm just in that mode. But what is coming to me again and again, because you said, the last stage being individuation, and then you talk about the Western world being individualistic. You talk about that, talk about the conscious soul going to the sun. And I am again only thinking about like the power of me and the navel and the birthing.
Oh, she dropped. It was close. Navel and the birthing, it's very important here. These 9 levels, these are nothing but our inbuilt levels of consciousness in the subtle body. So we will come to it. Yeah, we will see this. You just dropped, Rashi, for a second. And what is you're mentioning about navel in the body and birthing, and it's right. We can't hear you, unfortunately. Connection is. But
You
if
can
you
keep your voice off and
yes,
try that.
yes, it's unfortunate. Connection is better in that farming place. So if you look at these later, we will see that mental mind is Sahasrara. That's what we call, yeah. Vital mind is this exactly Ajna chakra. Physical mind is the Vishuddha, the expression of the thought through physical means. And then mental vital is Anahata chakra. It is that vital pranic force which is already conceptualized, made aesthetical, beauty, emotions, higher emotions. Vital is more dynamic. It's navel, and around the navel, Manipura chakra. Physical vital is that what we call svadhisthana, sensations within the body, physical, these kind of biology, biological psychology, which is all those electricity body, electrical body, how body functions and lives. And finally, mental physical is that what we call the Muladhara chakra, the source of all the physicality power hidden within. Then on the level of the knees, there is one deeper chakra below Muladhara, vital physical. And there is one more below our feet is a physical, about which we know nothing because we can't reach so deep into the inconscient. So here we are. Here these 9 chakras and 3 chakras above, Trirochanas. Above the Sahasrara, there is the intuitive mind. Above the intuitive mind, there is overmind. And above overmind is the realm of Vishnu. And above the overmind, there is supramental overmind. Before we come into the supermind, And you can see that it is all inbuilt. So there would be never physical if there would be no this triple world, if this triple supermind would not project its unity, one in many, in many, in one in many, into the swar world, if that swar world, swar world, unifying, diversifying, diverse, would not project it into this lower world of the mind, of the vital and physical. And you can see that the mind is more unifying, vital is more diversifying, and physical is diverse, totally diversified. Or even within them, mental mind is more unifying, vital mind is more diversifying, physical mind is more the most diversified. Within these realms, the same triple principle of the supermind is manifested. So in this vision, the physical world, the matter, is nothing but enterprise of the spirit, the manifestation of the divine being, yeah, in time and space. It's not something else. It's not opposite. It's not against the spirit. It is the spirit itself which took this form for the sake of manifesting it in the infinite varieties. Yeah? Infinite individualization. Yeah, it's beautiful. I admire this vision because it gives us really a completely different perception of our reality, which is not separating spirit and matter, which is not separating on religious, secular and sacred traditions. Yeah. Nowadays we have two different laws, sacred and secular. And people speak in secular language about sacred and in sacred language about secular, but this separation is really not valid. We have only one reality, which is neither sacred nor secular. It is true. Okay, thank you for, yes, I'm over my time. So I will close with mantra and we will meet next time and start from this slide. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Hari Om. Namaste. See you next time. Bye.